Here I am again. We're preaching some more psychology. That's with the CY. Psychology basically is helping you become more familiar with your own ego, your own way of doing things. So the question I want to tackle today actually came in through an email, and it says, Cy, what if my boss really is incompetent? Basically, it says my boss is a micromanaging ogre who treats me like a child. What should I do? People ask me, Cy, what's the best advice that you can give me? And one of the things that I tell them is stop believing everything you think. You've heard me talk about ego before. Your ego is a filter on the world, and it is an inaccurate filter. It always is taking what's happening and changing it just enough to where you're either one up or one down. You're always either the only one who gets it around here, the genius, while other people are jerks and idiots, or you're the one being victimized. You're gonna hate my answer, because my first answer is stop judging and start helping. Here are the facts. Your reality is that most of your career, you won't have a perfect boss. Your reality is that most of your career, your boss is going to be lacking in some type of skill set, or will do things other than how you would want them to be done. And you've got to be really careful, because the minute you start judging, you're not helping. So my boss is a micromanaging ogre. I actually called the person and asked them to tell me more. She gave me a story that went into my boss calls me up and is always checking on my projects, treats me like a child, doesn't even let me take a breath without their direction, wants to see on a daily basis what I'm doing, what I'm working on. And she went on to describe a story that she has built up about her boss over the years. As I listened to the story, I did the edit your story exercise. You can find that on our website. I basically went through and just captured the facts. My boss calls all the time to check up on my projects. I wrote down my boss calls to check on my projects. My boss treats me like a child. I wrote down my boss asks me questions that I believe he already should have the answer to. After I got done with all the judgment and I just edited the story, here was the reality, that this person's stress wasn't coming from her reality of who her boss was. It was coming from the story she had made up about the reality of who her boss was. See, all that happened is on a daily basis, her boss calls her. Her phone rings, she picks it up, she says hello. Her boss asks her for a status on her projects. She gives the status. Sometimes she says, I'm behind. Sometimes she says, I'm on target. And the boss asks for how she's going to get back on target. And that basically is the phone call. She has created the story that he micromanages her and he treats her like a child, and that he's always looking for projects to kill, and that he kills more of her projects than anybody else's. But that's the ego talking. And the reason this is so important is because once we believe a story, we go into co-creation. And we'll talk about co-creation another time, but basically, if you see him as a micromanager, then you're going to act in the evasive, defensive way, which is going to give him more reason to believe that he's got to keep a more close eye on you. So back to my advice on what if your boss is a micromanaging ogre. First, change the question. What if I've made up the story about my boss and I'm judging him relentlessly? The answer is stop judging, start helping. How do you help a boss who micromanages you? Go to them. Ask a helpful question. State your goal. I would like to work more independently, and I was wondering what's one or two things I could do to help you feel more comfortable with the status of my work that might replace some of the phone calls that we have on a daily basis. And then listen to the feedback you get and do what you're asked. Follow the simple instructions. And you might be surprised to find that the boss you hated is a pretty okay person who is just trying to do their job, and that you fell into the trap of judging, not helping. You really can like the same boss today that you hated yesterday. It's all a filter.